welcome. Thank you for being here. The webinar is going to be explaining the 3 different ways to add cards into the system and how you can accomplish the task. So simplifying it and making it easy as much as possible, straightforward as possible. And that's what we'll be showing you here today in this webinar. As always, during the webinar itself, during the presentation, I mute everybody out. And once the presentation is over, once I'm done showing what I have to do, I'll then open up, give everybody an opportunity to ask any questions if they have any. So just be patient and you'll have an opportunity to ask any questions if you have any at the end of the presentation. So everybody will have a chance to chime in if they have any questions. Okay, so getting my ducks in a row here. Let me see, get this off screen. There we go. All right, so that's already started. And I've got the Atrium Finder installed on my computer. It's an executable that you can get from our website. Any Windows-based computer, you can use it to access the system. We also have an Atrium Finder, which is available in the Android for your Android phones and also for Google Apple Play, I should say, if you're using Apple iPhones type things. So the Atrium Finder, whether it's PC or mobile based, if you will, it is designed to be able to connect to the system. And I have a 2-controller 4-door system here. When we have multiple controllers on the same system, the initial controller, if you will, is a master controller, and then we can have up to 49 subcontrollers. Now, when you have multiple controllers connected to the network, to add cards, you connect to the master controller, and that will then distribute that information to all the controllers defined in that system. So your go-to is always the master controller, and how to identify in your Atrium Finder interface on the PC is simply by choosing the controller that has the bold lettering, and in the product code it has the M to indicate it is a master controller. So that's the ones you want to point to, that you want to connect to. You can either highlight it and click on Go to Web Page, or simply double click to access your system. And logging into the system. So the task at hand here, very quickly, very easily, adding cards to the system. There, with all the controllers in the little plastic static bag that in the actual control panel comes in, you'll find a master and a programming card included in that bag. These are special cards, if you will, and they allow us to add and delete cards in the system without having to connect to the system. So if you give me a moment here, in our website, cdbi.ca, we'll go to the download center. And in the videos, in the Atrium section, videos, let me see, adding, I think it's down here, add and delete cards using the master and programming card. So very quickly, I'll just step through it here, showing you what that is. And whoops, if I can get it on screen, I apologize. Go, let's maximize that for a second. So once again, he just presented in this video, presented a card that is not in the system, that white card that we see on the screen right now. And I'll just scroll back a couple seconds here. You'll see that this card is being denied access. The reader activates the red LED. Okay, so we want to add that card to the system. The gentleman will be presenting the blue card, the master card. The door will unlock, and within 5 seconds, he'll present the red card that we see in his hand here, the programming card. Within 5 seconds, he'll swipe that card at the reader while after swiping the master card. So swipe the master, unlocks the door. Within 5 seconds, swipe the programming card. That'll activate the programming mode. So let's see what that looks like. So there you go. You saw the MasterCard be presented. The door was unlocked, and within 5 seconds, within a couple seconds, he presented the programming card. Now you'll notice that the reader was now blinking twice red, twice green. So let's see that in one sequence without cutting into it too often here. And there you go. So you just saw the card being added to the system. So we'll get the whole sequence go through here. And maybe a couple seconds further back. Here we go. See, he's presenting the MasterCard. He just presented the MasterCard. He'll present the programming card. Okay, so it's as simple as that. It's a matter of presenting the MasterCard to the reader. That'll unlock the door within 5 seconds. Presenting the programming card. That activates what we've termed the enrollment mode. And while the reader is in enrollment mode, the red LED and the green LED will blink twice in sequence, indicating that it's an enrollment mode. And when you present the card that is not in the system database, that card will be added to the database. It'll add the card and create a user in the system. So let's see that process, not only in video, but in a real world application here on my test bench system here. So I'm in my system right now. I'm in the users menu. I have my 3 default users in the system. And what we'll do is just show you this is the default system. I'll go to the events screen here. And in just a moment, I'll just highlight all the events. And I'll start the mastering programming process. So I'll just highlight this here. And this screen refreshes every 10 or 15 seconds or so with the events. And if you do want to refresh quicker, you simply have the refresh button over here. So let's see how that goes in our little practice situation here. So I've just presented the master and the programming card to the readers, one after the other. And you'll see that the master card that I highlight here is associated to the administrator user in the system. So that unlocked the door. So I have an access granted with my master card. And then the system unlocked the door and issued, if you will, the administrator that he has entered into the building. Once I did that, I swiped the red card, the programming card, and that activated enrollment mode. And at this particular time right now, my reader is blinking twice red, twice green. It is in enrollment mode. The reader will stay in enrollment mode for a predefined 5-minute period, and then it will time out. That is configurable. You can modify that in the software through the controller menu or the card menu for the enrollment. However, typically when you're swiping, you're doing a master in programming, you'll swipe your master, swipe your programming, add your card or cards. You can add multiple cards then. Once you're done, to stop the enrollment mode, you simply re-swipe your programming card and it goes back to its normal, the reader will go back to its normal status. So I've activated enrollment mode and I'm going to add a card right now to the system. We'll just refresh the screen. And what we see is this was the last event. Here's the enrollment mode was started. Okay, the door was relocked at that point. And then I just swiped the card. Now, added by card enrollment mode. What we're seeing on screen here, just let me remove these and make it easier to identify. is the card that was added, that was swiped at the reader, the number of the card, the facility number, the site code, the family number in this particular case is 061. And then after the colon, we have the card number, and you'll find that printed on the card itself, 05139. So that card has been added by the card enrollment mode, and the card was given to, if you will, a user in the system. And the user that was added in the system, to who this card now belongs to, that we've just added, the name of the user is the card number. Okay, so the card is in the system. I'll stop the enrollment mode with my programming card, the red card. Swipe it. There we go. Refresh. So card enrollment mode was stopped by programming card. And now that card, when I swipe it at the reader that I've added, generates an access granted. The card or cards that have been added with the enrollment mode will inherit 24-hour access to all the doors in the system. Okay, that is configurable. You can customize that, modify that if you want. You can change that to say only one door from 8 to 5 Monday to Friday. But by default, the settings are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So the enrollment mode, any card that's added by default, will have access 24/7. So if that is not the what you would prefer, you can modify that. But the card that was added in the system, the user in the card, inherit the access level associated to the programming card, the red card. That is predefined in the system. And that access level has 24-hour access to all the doors. So the access level is called the programming access level. So that is default in the system, and here it is. If I go into that access level, go to the areas. So for each door in the building, I will have access to those doors. So this card that I've added will inherit the access level programming, and the access level programming says you can go to all these areas. I have 4 doors in the system, so 4 areas. Allows me to go to the areas, these doors, according to the programming schedule. If I want, I could say simply modify that and assign a never schedule, for example, to different areas. So my access level programming, I can modify according to my needs. I can put another schedule if I prefer. Okay, so I'm customizing it according to the actual site needs. So this will be able to ease the programming issues. The whole object of the enrollment mode is to be able to simplify the task for people that are not too familiar with the system, to be able to add cards in the system without having to connect to the system. Now, when you add a card to the system using the master in programming, the cards that are being accessed inherit the programming access level. Now, with that said, without getting too far into details about this master in programming option, I will be later on this week on Thursday talking about managing, and even next week talking about creating our own master in programming users and cards in the system. It is a very powerful tool that can simplify the task for many end users that are responsible for issuing cards. And I'll be giving you more tips and hits. You can actually create multiple master cards and multiple programming cards in the system. Today, we'll show you how to do the basics, and I think it's next Wednesday or so. Check our website in the webinar section, and you'll see how to create your own master and programming cards in the system. So now I've just, for the moment here, I'll cancel. I won't modify my access level for the programming. I did the enrollment mode. If I go to the users, the user that was added in my system appears with the name of the card number in his information. So that user that I added using the enrollment mode added a card in the system and created a new user. The user's name in the database is the name of the card, the number of the card. To modify that, you can simply edit the user's name. Okay. And save. So when you actually hand the card out to the person, you can then modify the name to associate the person you gave the card to that's now in the system to the actual card itself. So the card that was added was that one. Now I've modified it to mean the user Gildo. And the access level associated with that user is the programming access level. We know that the programming access level can be modified, and you can also modify the programming schedule that's part of the programming access level. And we'll go into those details further on. So that's one simple and easy way of adding cards in the system. Another one is just as easy, um, and we can do it through two different screens. What I'll do is I'll go to the door menu, and I'm not 100% sure which door that was. Just to be sure here, see the events. So in the event screen, I'll be back in the door menu just a moment. I just swiped the card. I wasn't sure which reader, which door it was on my particular demo unit. So it was door 1 or door 2. So now I do know it's the lobby entrance door. And you'll see that the card was denied access, and it was a card unknown. And here's the number of that card that I swiped at the reader. Okay. Now, any card unknown event that's generated by the system has an add button associated to it. So if it's not in the card is not in the system, that add button will walk you through the process of being able to configure and issue this card to a user. With that said, what I wanted to show you, this is the lobby entrance. This is the event screen, right? The door is a lobby entrance, and the event screen shows us all the events that the system can generate. You have some filters up here that you can choose different filters to display on the screen. And for the door events, what I'll do is, this is the lobby entrance. I'll go to the um, details of the lobby entrance, and I will then scroll down, as you just saw what I did, and go to the event screen for that particular door. And you'll notice that that event also appears here. So whether you're in the door menu where you actually swipe the card that's not in the system, and you go to the event screen for that particular door, you'll see the event. Or if you go to the event screen and have all the events. I find this one is more convenient because it filters out all the other events, and you know that you swipe your card at that event. But either or, they both work the same way. So I've swiped the card at the door. It's an unknown card. I'm going to add that card to the system, and this will walk me through. So what it's asking me now is the card. We'll say we'll say John's card, for example. Okay, you just give it a display name. And what the when we swipe the card and generated event, what that has done for us is it's already populated the family number of the card, the facility code, the site code, depending on which term, they all mean the same thing: family number, facility code, site code. And in this case, it's 33, and then the card number itself. So for all intents and purposes, we swipe the card, we're adding it to the system, and yes, that's the correct information. We gave it a display name, and we click add. Now the card is in the database. Who will this card belong to? Who are you issuing it to is the next step. So right now, we're still in the John's card, in the card menu for that particular card. We're going to assign this card as now in the database to a user. Now we can either assign it to a pre-existing user in the system. Someone lost their card, forgot their card, we can issue another card. Or if it's a new employee, new tenant, to add a new user. So here we're going to be issuing that card to a user. To add a new user, you simply click on the plus sign. And that brings you to the user menu. So we'll say, give this user who we're giving it to, click save. Now this user, John Doe, he has a card. That card that we swiped and have clicked on the add button in the event screen. And now we simply have to issue what access rights that card will give to what doors the access. So John will have the tenant access in the system. You can have up to 1,000 access levels in the system. And this will allow you to issue the card. So we had the master and programming card. It created a new user, and we edited the user's name. It was the user's the card number that was created as a user. We edited the user's name. Then we used the add button. We swiped the card at the reader. Simply swiping at the reader generates a card unknown event. Card unknown event that this is displayed on the screens, whether you're in the door menu or the event menu. You have an add button. So add the card. Fill in the display name for the card, save it, and then you will assign that card to a user, whether it's an existing user in the system or to a new user. If it's a new user, you save that, and then you issue that user what access rights will be administered for that particular user. Now, the last option, if you were the third option, which is a common option, is to add the card in the system manually. So I have a card that I need to issue to a tenant, for example, and I want to add him in the system. So I simply go to the user menu where I'm in right now, click on the plus sign, and we'll say, this is John's wife. So Jane will be in the system. And we're going to manually add the information for Jane in the system. So we're going to give her a card. So we created a user, added a user, gave her the name, click save. Step 2 would be to issue that user a card. So we're going to add a new card for this user. This time it'll be Jane's card. Okay. Now, the important information here is the card number. So what is the family number? And let's see. And what is the card number? That is what's printed on the card itself. Click save. Oh, this card already exists. My mistake, already had it in the system. So here's the other card. It's the same family number, and it's 1895. And save. Okay, so Jane now has a card. She's a user in the system. She has a card. My last step is to be able to associate access levels. So we'll assign an access level to Jane's card. And she is now in the system. Her card will now have access to the doors according to her access rights. Just refresh. And here we go. Jane Doe access granted, lobby entrance. There's Jane's card. Here's the card number and the information. So she entered the actual lobby. So that, ladies and gentlemen, covers the 3 different ways that through the web server you can add a card. Through the mastering programming, no need for computers, no need to know passwords. It's a big advantage through using the event screen. Very simple. Just log in, swipe your card at a reader, and you see the event appear on screen. Add that card in the system, assign it to an existing user, create a new user, and attribute that card to an access level. Last but not least, manually, as I just did here. So that'll be it for today. Appreciate it. Thanks for everybody being here, and we'll see all of you again, hopefully, tomorrow. Stay safe and stay home. Thank you very much. Goodbye.